Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mailbox for the 5th of September 2011. My name is Totalbiscuit, bringing you your daily dose of community interaction, gaming discussion, and all that good stuff. You can email in mailbox at cynicalbrit.com, that is mailbox at cynicalbrit.com, with topics for future shows. The game in the background is the forthcoming hack-and-slashy Diablo free-to-play style game, Path of Exile, that I will most likely be playing a little bit more of this week. That said, Space Marine is coming out tomorrow in the US, and I may or may not be able to get my grubby mitts on it, and if that happens, then Path of Exile may indeed be left by the wayside. We shall find out. Anyway, the first email comes in from Mr. Panda Infection. And people wonder why they find those on the internet weird. This one comes in from him and says, so every time I go on videos about Call of Duty, all the people that hate it usually say that it requires no skills. Battlefield actually requires teamwork. Okay, your first mistake was reading YouTube comments. Anyway, I don't understand why people think Battlefield is more teamwork friendly. I play it and I've never seen people communicating. It's true they could be on Skype since I play Battlefield on PC. But all I see in Battlefield is you run and you shoot, and that's probably the only thing you do in FPS games, just running and shooting. The only difference I see is the Battlefield is semi-balanced and certainly less frustrating. So I was wondering, what is your opinion on the differences between these games, and if you believe BF requires more teamwork than COD? It doesn't require more teamwork than COD, it has a higher threshold for teamwork than COD. As in, teamwork in Battlefield will make you more successful than it would in COD. That's something that you have to understand. Somebody has to win a match of Battlefield eventually. So on a pubby server, yes, there could be absolutely no teamwork whatsoever, and who wins really has absolutely nothing to do with you. And to be honest, most people don't seem to care. They're just racking up points to level up their class or whatever, and of course racking up points to get their personal KD up on the scoreboard. They're not actually playing as a team at all. That said, there are plenty of activities within Battlefield games that incentivize teamwork. So if you are not doing those things, you are most likely playing suboptimally. That said, there are just some people that care about nothing but KD, and that's probably why they play snipers. The thing is, if I put together an organized team and I go up against an unorganized pubby rabble, I will destroy them. And I'm not just saying me, I'm saying pretty much anybody that does this, because Battlefield is, for all intents and purposes, always an objective-based game. Ergo, objectives are best dealt with when being taken as a team. We're also talking about the use of vehicles which have multiple transportation slots. When was the last time that you saw someone on a pubby server with a full APC, for instance? That allows you to travel much, much faster. What about a second guy on the back of a quad bike? Does that ever happen? Probably not. Do you see people taking APCs and driving off with nobody in them? Yeah, you do. But even then, if you're part of a squad, it's really hard not to be helpful. If you're part of a squad and then somebody spawns on you, then you are helping them out. You are playing as part of a team even if you don't realize it. And Battlefield games in general, we're talking specifically about Battlefield Bad Company 2 at the moment, just in terms of mechanics, are based around the idea of teamwork. If you ignore that, then you will have games, and those games will finish, and the chances are that whatever you've done has actually influenced the flow of the game not a damn well bit, and it simply comes down to who shot the other guy more, and that's really what you're talking about there. But get any kind of organization on that team, and then suddenly things will start to tip in your favor. That doesn't really happen with COD. There are some game modes that do encourage it, but they are not very popular game modes. And you've also got the idea of kill streaks and the idea of just being able to bomb the opposing team at random by getting a really lucky drop from, say, a care package. That doesn't really suit the idea of teamwork at all. In fact, you're not really rewarded for playing as a team in that game at all. You don't want to be doing that. You actually want to be getting all the kills. You don't want to share the kills. You want to get a big kill streak. You're rewarded for being a one-man army. It's really as simple as that. That's what the game is based around. You know why most people play Domination? Because it's the longest game mode, which allows you to farm the most experience points. It's as simple as that. You've got more chances of getting the big kill streak, or getting a level. Nuketown Domination is so freaking popular for that very, very reason, because it goes on for ages. Camping points on Nuketown's really hard, because the area is so small, so the game drags on and allows you to farm more and more and more experience. That's why players go on those game modes. And yeah, there are competitive Call of Duty tournaments. Yes, there are competitive teams, but Currently, the competitive scene for it is absolutely pathetic. It might get better with Modern Warfare 3, since they're doing the whole Call of Duty Elite thing, which supposedly is going to be running a lot of automated tournaments. That will most likely help the competitive scene out, and I'm interested to see how that plays out, regardless of the fact that I don't believe in paying for the sodding service. But when it comes down to which encourages team play more, it is without question the Battlefield series. There is no real doubt about that whatsoever. And regardless of whether or not you end up playing in a game that has teamwork involved in it, every part of that game inches you towards working as a team, regardless of whether or not you are trying to. Not to mention the fact that the effectiveness of your team will increase by magnitudes of 5 million if you guys actually work together properly. As to which requires more skill, that's a dumb argument that should be reserved for YouTube comments only, and is, as far as I'm concerned, completely damn irrelevant, because none of you are playing the game competitively anyway, so who cares if it requires any skill? This one comes in from Sir Fox that says, with the increasing amount of games being released on the Mac platform, including the massive leap from Steam to include it, it came as a surprise that Riot Games have closed down their Mac beta client and have completely locked down on any further information. With regards to problems, progress, or any potential hopes of a release of a Mac client in the future beyond a very vague maybe. Those on Linux and Mac are grouping together to try and rectify this, but with a complete lack of response from Riot, the chances of anything being as smooth as the official client, which for many worked perfectly, are exceedingly remote. While avoiding the matter of PC versus Mac or the common Macs are not for gaming, they increasingly are, being sold to be capable of gaming as is, and still being at the top end of the professional creative market, what are your thoughts on this breaking news? Is it right for a developer to disregard an entire platform for their player base so they can try and hold on to the forefront of MOBAs with Dominion, while HON continues to have a perfectly stable and up-to-date Mac client, and Dota 2 with a promised Mac client on release? Well, I don't agree with your reasoning and rationale, honestly. You're saying that they are not developing a Mac client because they want to hold on to being the forefront of MOBAs? What? No, that doesn't make any sense. Unless it was diverting significant development resources away from Riot, which I don't necessarily believe, then why would that be a factor? I don't know why they discontinued support for it. I don't know why they don't really care about providing for Mac, but it is their decision. And I don't think you can really imply any reasoning behind that unless they've given you some actual evidence to make you believe that. I mean, how does having a Mac client stop LoL from being the preeminent MOBA in the current marketplace before Dota 2 comes out? It doesn't. In fact, if anything, it allows for the expansion of the market. Now, if you did buy a Mac and then expected to be able to play a ton of games on it, then you probably bought the wrong machine. It's the same as choosing to install Linux, for instance. If you want to be a gamer, you should probably be using Windows, because that's where the majority of the games are, that's where most of the support is, and especially when it comes to hardware, if you are wanting to keep up the latest and greatest, Macs are bespoke units. They are not upgradable in the same way that PCs are, and the upgrades that you can do to them are often exceedingly expensive. Ergo, you tend to be behind the curve with any Mac you purchase, and of course you will be buying machines that are more expensive than they should be in terms of price performance, and Macs certainly have their place, there's no real doubt about that. I don't think I'd ever own one, I don't see the point. There's nothing I can run on a Mac that I can't run on a PC, and there's plenty I can only run on a PC which will not run on a Mac. So why would I be interested in owning a Mac? There are plenty of companies that are coming up with Mac clients, and that's simply due to the proliferation of Apple on the market. For instance, the MacBook is an extremely common laptop. You'll see probably more MacBooks than you will any other individual brand and make and model of laptop. It's really that simple. You're going to see a lot of them. They're very popular among students, for instance, which is perhaps one of the markets that Riot would be interested in tapping due to free time, although certainly not due to disposable income. So I really don't know why they've made this decision. I don't have a clue. Do they have limited development resources? Effectively, Riot are still independent, but they are a very large independent company. They're like 300 employees, if I recall correctly. I don't know. Was this client causing them a bunch of problems? Was it an issue with Apple themselves? Who knows? Apple are often very crazy, litigious people. You only need to look at the stuff that's going on with Samsung at the moment, with the Galaxy Tab that's now actually been removed from expo floors in Germany because of the attempts to sue them right out of the marketplace by Apple. Apple are actually a very evil company. I think you've got to understand this. People used to fixate a lot on Microsoft, certainly about 10 or so years ago, as being the most evil electronics company alive. I would say that Apple is far beyond that at this point. And yes, Microsoft is still bad for a great number of different reasons, but I'd say they've gotten significantly better as comparison to Apple that have got significantly worse and do all sorts of awful things, but that's beside the point. I have no idea why. Not a clue. It makes sense, if you can do so, to expand your market. If it is not worth the price, and it's not worth the effort and the hassle, then you don't do it. And I think it is a little bit of a vicious circle. You don't get gamers getting Macs because there's no games on the Mac, and then of course there are no games developed for the Mac because there are no gamers on the Mac to purchase said games for the Mac. Same problem with Linux as well. It is a bit of a vicious circle, that's for sure. But there are certain genres that it would seem would make more sense to also have Mac availability, and something like a free-to-play game, that seems like the kind of game that you want to make available to pretty much anyone, and I don't know why they're not doing that. But at the end of the day, until we hear more from them, we're never going to know. This one comes in from Karina that says, with the uprising popularity of gaming, more female gamers have started to come up. Few girls I know, and most of them I absolutely despise, believe they're the shiz when it comes to gaming, even though the only game they've played is Call of Duty or another hyped-up first-person shooter. They don't seem to shut up whenever gaming is brought up as a topic, call themselves hardcore gamers, and think they know everything about guns, consoles, and mechanics in general. Many of them only started gaming because it's the new cool thing to do. As a female gamer who's been playing games since I was 5 years old, I personally find this offensive and embarrassing. I'm all for having more female gamers in the community, but I feel as if they aren't really embracing games for what they're meant to be, for fun. I want to know what you think about these new gamers, quote-unquote. Well, it's inevitable, isn't it? Gaming is becoming a more accepted form of media, and it should be, because it is a form of media, it is not a passing fad. Games will not go away. Gaming is a new form of media in such a way that television was, in such a way that film was, in such a way that books are. It will most likely never disappear unless there's some kind of crazy apocalypse. It may rise and fall in popularity, but it ain't going anywhere. It is a way to experience a story in an interactive way that was not available 30 or so years ago. So that is something to consider. More and more people are getting involved in it. What you're talking about here are the gamer girls, as I like to pronounce them, which are basically females who get into gaming because they've realized that there are an awful lot of males available there, and you know what, a lot of them are quite desperate. So if they are of the attention-whoring sort, yes, they will act this way. However, I would like to point out that these people are, without question, in the minority. There are a ton of female gamers, and most of them don't make themselves known. And why? Because actually it doesn't matter what gender you are, it doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what sexual orientation you are, it doesn't matter what religious or non-religious persuasion you happen to have. Gaming is gaming, it's a hobby, it's a medium like any other. You can watch it, you can take part in it, you can play games, and I would hope not be judged for who you are. The main problem, I suppose, is that now with the advent of online multiplayer games and voice over IP, more often than not, you are forced to open your mouth, and that's when the problems occur. There will always be those that try to jump on board and take advantage of a particular scene kids, hipsters, things like that. They're not there for the love of it, they're there because it's perceived as cool, and this is one of their many phases before they go on and like something else, like some kind of attention deficit disorder afflicted magpie. I have no idea why you would do this, but some people are like that. Some people like to shift their identity and attach themselves to something like some kind of limpet. I don't know why that is, but that's just how some people are. And yes, these kind of people are annoying. I must say that it does not simply constrain itself to the female persuasion. No, no, no. There are plenty, in fact, I would say more males that do exactly this, that believe they're cool for playing Call of Duty. I know everything about games, and my uncle works for Nintendo, I think was the classic one. You no doubt remember that one back in school, and that actually keeps coming up. It's almost a meme now on the internet. My uncle works for Nintendo. And yes, people like to feel like they belong in a particular scene, and some do so for attention. They like to feel like they're popular. Some people do it for the simple reason that they feel like they have to belong. They have to define their identity by what it is they do and who they associate with, as opposed to who they actually are, which is kind of sad, but it's extremely common, and there are people that do that. I don't think you can necessarily judge people for the reason why they're gaming. I think the only thing you can do is to try and introduce them to the fact that there is actually more beyond Call of Duty, that there is a massive massive world of games available, and perhaps they'll be interested in it and perhaps they won't, and if they're not, whatever, just ignore these people. You might say that, oh, it gives girls online a bad name, and yeah, there's a stereotype, there's no real doubt about that, but the stereotype's about pretty much anything, and the only thing you can really do in order to combat that is to act like a perfectly reasonable human being and enjoy games like the rest of us are, because please bear in mind that you are not a vocal minority, you are the vast majority of gamers. And yes, we are represented online by a lot of loudmouth morons of the male and female persuasion, but it does not take away from the fact that the vast majority of people are not doing that. They are sitting at home enjoying games and not bothering anybody, and that's the kind of people we should be focusing on, as opposed to the whiners, the complainers, and the loudmouths who really blow nothing but hot air and bile through the internet. Okay, folks, that is me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the Mailbox. Please remember to email in mailbox@cynicalbrit.com with topics for future shows. I should be going all the way through this week with a Mailbox every day by the looks of it. Got some great things lined up for this week, and remember the Shoutcraft Invitational number 3 will be airing on Saturday at midday British Standard Time. That will be 1 p.m. Central European Summertime, or 7 a.m. on the east coast of the US, over on twitch.tv/Totalbiscuit if you want some great StarCraft action with myself and Apollo. Also remember that my StarCraft material is over on youtube.com/Totalbiscuit now. That is youtube.com/Totalbiscuit. I separated the channels because there was too much StarCraft, and there you must go if you wish to receive more StarCrafty goodness. I'll see you next time.